Hello everyone, welcome back. It's Tarek Salim and welcome to Tarek Technology YouTube channel. Today is a getting started or crash course about grandjs framework. So let's discuss firstly what is grandjs actually. Basically, grandjs is a Node.js framework for building scalable and maintainable solid web applications using JavaScript or TypeScript. grandjs is fully built upon JavaScript in the version 1, and in the major updates of the version 2, grandjs is fully rewritten upon TypeScript. So now grandjs is built upon TypeScript. You can use grandjs for JavaScript projects or with TypeScript if you like write TypeScript. So why we have shifted from JavaScript to TypeScript? We shifted from JavaScript to TypeScript because the ability and the features that TypeScript offers, such as type definitions, annotations, and decorators, and so on. So we have rewritten grandjs based on TypeScript the version 2, and we have added a new features such as writing JSX component for server-side rendering using JavaScript and JSX syntax instead of using template engines. Okay, so let's discuss firstly what is the main features of grandjs. So you can see here grandjs has fewer packages and more productivity. Framework includes the most needed functionality to build a perfect project without a need or any external package. However, later on we have added for grandjs the ability to use Express.js npm packages inside grandjs, so you can use many packages that you used to use with Express. You can use these packages in grandjs. So for example, you can use body parser, and you can use express file upload. You can use also cookie parser, and also you can use express sessions, express flash messages, and so on. All these packages can be used inside grandjs. Okay, so let's take a look about the code and configuration of grandjs. So firstly, I'm using VS Code as a code editor, and here I'm have this terminal, and firstly I'm saying npm init to initialize a new node project, and now the project is currently initializing. Okay, so while initializing the project, let's take a look at the features about grandjs. So it has a solid routing system built upon JavaScript oriented programming. So you write your routes as a classes based on ES6 or B in JavaScript. Okay, also you can use controlled handling for every arrow page in your app. So you have different routers, and each router includes some routes such as get routes, post routes, and put routes, and so on. So each router you can manage and manipulate its arrow pages. So if you have a router called home, and this router has one get method, okay, so any request or with any path name excluded this supported route will be generate an arrow page. So each router you can say I want to display this arrow page for this router. Okay, and we will take a look about this amazing feature practically while we writing code. Okay, so I'm here the terminal asking me to write the package name, so I'm just writing enter. Okay, and once this has initialized, I will install grandjs. So I will say npm install grandjs and hit enter. Also, as you can see here, you can extend routing system. Okay, so as I described before, you can extend multiple routers to build another routers. Okay, and we will take a look about that later. And also you can write JSX syntax instead of using template engines such as handlebars, PugJS, and so on. You can just write JSX functional components. Actually, the components are stateless, so you can write JSX stateless functional components, and you can use these components to render markup language, to render HTML syntax for the web as a response. And also, grandjs can be used for building RESTful APIs, so maybe you don't need JSX or render HTML pages. You just need to build RESTful APIs, so grandjs is a good solution to build your RESTful APIs. And later on, we currently working on building a GraphQL engine for integration with grandjs. So soon grandjs will support GraphQL to extend and to solve your RESTful API architecture. Okay, grandjs now is installed, and also you can see here grandjs uses built-in CORS handler, so you don't need to install CORS because grandjs installs CORS package from new npm, which is the same package is used for Express, but grandjs includes it automatically in your application. However, you can set your configuration of this CORS, but we include this package by default in grandjs because we want to like the headache that you can face while developing your application, so you don't need to worry about the installed packages, and you don't need to worry about the CORS problem while you are working with a front-end framework and build RESTful API using grandjs. So we install CORS automatically, and also we accept, as I mentioned before, we accept a wide range of Express packages that you used to use with Express.js. So let's start our coding. So I have installed grandjs. Until now I don't need anything else. Here I will create a new file. In this file we call index.js. Okay, also I will create a new folder called views, which will contain all JSX components. Okay, and also here I will create a folder called public, which will contain all our assets such as images, videos, JavaScript files, CSS files. However, you can put index.html files here also to render them as a static files. Okay, and I'm gonna create also a folder called we can say it as routes, which will contain all routes that we need. Okay, here I'm gonna import grandjs. So grandjs contains many and different classes and interfaces you can use here. So one of them is an object called server, okay, and this server, which is considered as the main and the core of grandjs. So server actually is a server of grandjs that you can use to initialize the server to listen for specific ports, and then import your routes to work with these routes on this server. Okay, so I'm gonna say grandjs grandjs/lab, and you can see here an important server from grandjs/lab, because grandjs is built upon TypeScript, and then grandjs is compiled in lab folder. Okay, so we import the JavaScript code from lab. However, when you use grandjs with TypeScript, you just import grandjs or import server from grandjs/source. Source is the main folder that contains all TypeScript files of the projects. Okay, so here I'm importing server from grandjs/lab, and then also I'll import another interface called view, which is the main object that is responsible on compiling and passing JSX components and rendering them to HTML pages. Okay, so here important view to set some settings for this view. For example, the first thing I will do, I will set some settings to view engine to load grandjs together in order to know how to pass JSX components in the right way. Okay, so I'm importing view and set some settings. So the first setting I will add, you can set setting in view engine by calling view.settings.set, and then I'll define something called views, and this views tells grandjs view engine to know where is the directory that contains all your JSX components inside there. Okay, so I'll set views as, and then tell grandjs that views folder is exist on dot/views. Okay, and then I'll also set some configuration for grandjs itself for its server. So I will define or call a function called setConfig, and this setConfig will take the port. Until now, this port defines the port that grandjs server will work on. Okay, so for example, we will put this port as 3000. Okay, and then we will say server.init server, and this function actually is called to initialize the grandjs server. However, you can put here a callback function to do anything after initializing the server. So we can say server is listening. Very good. And now inside our routes, oh, I think I have an error here, so I will rename this folder. Okay, and here I will create an index.js, which is the main router that we will use. Okay, so I will import grandjs router, which is another class that you can import from grandjs library. So const router equal require grandjs/lib, and here I will define a class. So I will say main router extends router. So as you can see here, building grandjs routers is based on JavaScript ESX classes, which is the new implementation, the new interface of JavaScript object-oriented programming. So grandjs exposes a class called router, which is extendable, and you can extend this class to build and customize your own routers. Okay, and here I call the constructor, which takes some options and then pass these options to super. Okay, which refers to the router class, and then I will define just one method until now, and this method will called get homepage. In this method should return we will use firstly this method as a route as a route inside this router. So each method will be used as a route inside the router class should return an object. So I'm returning an object from this method, and this object will contain some properties. The first property is a URL, which means the URL that this route will be resolved to. Okay, so for example, the route URL will be slash, and then specify the method. So the HTTP method that will be used to generate this route. Okay, so you have HTTP method such as get, import, put, and patch, and so on. So here the method will be get, and the handler handler is a function that is called when this route is requested. For example, I'm a client and I'm entering to this server or this website. Then I'll navigate to a specific route. Okay, and this handler takes two arguments, and the first argument is request, which implies the incoming request, and the response, which implies the response object of HTTP request. Okay, and then we will export this main router, so we can say module.exports. Okay, and say main home router. And inside views I will create a new component called header.jsx. Okay, in this component I will import the view engine from grandjs/lab. And we can mention here that inside each component you build using JSX in grandjs, you have to require in its file the view engine, because with view engine grandjs identify this component and know that this is a component, and then pass this JSX component into HTML markup. Okay, and then I'm defining the header, which equals a function component, and this is a stateless function component actually. And we can define an object here called props. Okay, we can expect that we have some property called page title and other props, and here actually we will return is a document element, so we return HTML. Actually we don't need we don't need HTML. I think we will return head element, and this head element includes title, and this title will be page title. Okay, and then we will export this component, so we can say module.exports will equals header. As you can see here, I'm exporting the component with the Node.js common with the common JS export method, which is module.export. I'm not using export default or something like that, because components in grandjs should be exported with module.export, not anything else. However, when you use TypeScript, you should use module.export. Okay, very good. And also I'm creating a new file, and this component will be page.jsx, and actually this page will be used to render any page we want, so it will be a basic page. Sorry about that. So I'm importing view equals require grandjs/lib, and then define this page will equals functional component, page title and other props. Also we will import the header component here inside base page, and importing a component inside another component not is used or executed using the require method, which is the native method in Node.js. However, it's can be happen using view built-in function to import another component. So we will say const header will equals view.import.jsx, and import.jsx function is a built-in function in grandjs view engine to import components from other file to this current file. Okay, so I'm saying slash dot slash and header dot jsx. Very good. And here I'm returning HTML. Okay, and here I'm putting the header and pass the page title as page title. Very good. And then adding the body tag, and inside the body tag I'll just put props.children. If you have used React.js before, you'll see the syntax is pretty similar to React. So in React you build a component, and when you want to add another child to this component, you can follow this syntax, which is something called props.children. So when you use this component, you can pass another child, okay, to this component, which will be rendered inside this page component. And then export this component, so module.export page. Very good. Okay, and here I'm creating a new component, which will be home.jsx, and say const view. As I said before, we have to require view engine in each component we write, and say const import page here. So page will equals view.import jsx to import another component inside this file, and this component will be page.jsx, actually dot slash. Very good. And const whom will equals return, and here I will also create a new component called body.jsx, which will contain the main body of the page, okay. And for example, we can say const view will equals require grandjs /lib, and const body will equals require is a functional component, and this functional component will return a simple h1 element, and this hello, or we can pass it as a property. So we can say message and other props. I'm using JavaScript ESX spread object to spread all other properties in the props object, okay. And here I'm passing just this message to be rendered, and then export this component module.export body, and import this body here, view.import jsx .body.jsx. And here I'm rendering base page, okay. As you can see here, I have opened this tag to write other content here, so I can write any content here, and this content actually will be rendered inside props.children. Okay, and here I'm just rendering the body component, and actually we can say we have message and page title and other props. So the page will take the page title, as page title. In the body we'll take message, actually as message, and then say module dot exports equals who, and inside index.js I will import this whom component. So I will import the view engine from grandjs, and then view the import jsx from dot slash views slash dot slash views slash home.jsx. Very good. And here just say response the status will be 200 in the JS the render, which is a built-in method in in grandjs, and this render method takes as the first parameter as a component. Is the component you want to render, and then something called data, and this data is an object contains all your data you want to render inside this component. So I will pass the home component, and the data will contain an object, contain two properties. The first one is a page title to be rendered in head, and we can say home page, and the second property is a message, and we can say hello home page. And then in the constructor after supercalling we should to make grandjs pass this router or consume this router, we have to pass the written route here in the proper router. Okay, so for example, this get home page returns an object, and this route is a get method, so we can say simply that this dot get routers, okay, dot push. And get routers actually is an array, contains all get routes that related to this router. Okay, so I will push this the get home page and render this get home page to return this object. Actually, if you have this method with post method, you have to use another array called this the post routers the push. Okay, hopefully it will be cleared. And now I'll go to index.js and const import this main router equals require dot slash routes slash index, and then we have to instantiate this main router, so we can say const router, or we can say main router equals new main router. And actually this main router contains some options, and one of these options is something called base, which is a property contains is a string value. Okay, and this base implies the base URL that this router will work on, so each route inside this router will be resolved after this base. Okay, so if this router, the base of it is slash, and we have this route with slash. So this home component will be rendered when we request localhost 3000 slash. Okay, so if I have changed this to slash home, for example, the URL of this page will be displayed only when I request localhost 3000 slash home. Okay, hopefully it's clear. And after instantiating this class, we have to call something or a method called build. So we can say main router dot build to build this router, and build a method actually makes this router is ready to be consumed while you request it. So it compiles the routes and put these routes in a proper way to handle the incoming requests. So the build method is important to call to make this router work. Okay. And then save it, and here we can say node index and go to the browser, and navigate to localhost 3000. Okay, we have an error here. Oh, I have written the views folder name by mistake, so I think this is the right name. And here re-initialize the application again. We have another issue. Props, super props, I think in the router. Oh, I have to pass options, not props. Server is listening, as you can see here. The server is listening. And navigate to localhost 3000, not found root. Okay guys, the issue was I have wrote something like that URL with L capital, however I should write it as lowercase characters. And now save. Once I go to terminal and CLS and then node index to render the application. As you can see, the server is listening. Okay, and when I restart or reload the page, you can see anything here. Okay, so this happens because however we have passed these props here, but we read these props in a mistake way in home.jsx file. So we have message without the a, so we have to write it as the following. Okay, it's missing a, and actually the same thing. I think this should work fine. Reload as you can see, hello home page, very nice. And the page title, I think it's not rendered. Yes, page title, and then restart the project. As you can see, the page title is homepage, and we have the message here is hello homepage. Now we have rendered basic JSX components with pure JavaScript with the help of grandjs, without using React or something like that, or Next or something like that. Also, we have learned how to build simple router in grandjs, and we will continue our crash courses about grandjs and some features about it later in the coming videos. And thank you guys for watching this video, and if you inspired by this framework and you liked it, you can start this project on GitHub. You'll find the link of the project on GitHub in the comments below. And thank you guys for watching this video, and don't forget to make subscribe and like to get updated with new videos. And thank you.